Hi guys, I'm Byrd and welcome back. Today we are going to work on a custom handmade apron just in time for the holidays. And the best part, guys, is no pattern is needed. So let's get into the details. For this project, you'll need roughly 1 to 1.5 yards of fabric that speaks to you. Generally a woven, so fabric that does not stretch. And I'm using this really pretty cotton for my custom apron. You'll need whatever measuring tool that you use, a marking tool. I'm using Taylor's chalk, a D-ring, as well as a clip. And you can actually do this without these two items. But I'm just going to do them because I want to mix it up a little bit and I want my necktie to be adjustable. Don't forget, guys, if you are new to me, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on your notifications so you won't miss out on any upcoming tutorials. The first thing that you want to do with your fabric is go ahead and fold your fabric in half. I think this is the easiest way to cut out the apron. Grab the apron that you already own, that you like the way that it fits. Fold that apron also in half and line it up on the folded edge. So you want to make sure that the folded edges are touching, and I'm going to turn it so you can see it from this direction as well. After that, you're going to just cut all the way around the shape of the apron. So all the way around the shape of the apron, leaving approximately 1/2 inch seam allowance. And so you can use your tailor's chalk to do this by just kind of marking about 1/2 inch away from the apron all the way around. Go ahead and cut out your apron. Once you do that, set the existing apron off to the side, grab your marking tool and your measuring tool, and roughly 6 inches from the bottom of your apron, go ahead and draw a line all the way across. Again, I'm using my tailor's chalk, and you want to do this on both sides of that apron. And this is where the bottom of the pocket will end. This is personal preference. So if you have a long or short torso, you may want to raise the pockets up or lower the pockets. So this is really based on your personal preference. So go ahead and mark there. Grab your scrap fabric, lay your scrap fabric across, because I love to have an apron with pockets. So we are definitely going to add pockets. Now this is about 8 inches deep of a pocket. And I again folded my remaining fabric, folded edge meeting, and I cut the pocket so it goes completely across the width of the apron. So let me explain that again so it's very clear. So the depth, so this is deep, and I've already serged the edges. I'm going to show you that in a minute too. This is roughly, I cut it about 7.5 inches deep because I gave myself a little bit of a seam allowance. I folded the material on the edge just along the apron, and I cut mine all the way the width of the apron. So when I open up the apron and I'm ready to sew down the pocket, this will fit all the way across, and we're going to make little compartments here. So you can drop your phone, you can drop your keys. If there's a notepad or an ink pen or something like that that you need in your apron, you'll have a nice wide, a couple different pockets that you can use. All right, so go ahead and do that. And before you put your pocket off to the side, I did serge the edges. You don't have to. You can just fold it down and down again to totally encase those raw edges for a nice clean finish on the inside. I only have to fold mine once because I serged it. And once you've done that, you're going to fold the edges of the pocket on the top and on the bottom under to the wrong side, approximately 1/2 inch, and then set that off to the side. And the final thing that you need, this is so super easy, guys, is you're going to need 3 yards of, I'm saying binding, but it really isn't binding, but 3 yards of a 1.5 inch strip of fabric. And this is going to be for your neckties as well as the waist ties. It's 3.5 inches, which seems like a lot, but it really isn't. And again, it's 1.5 inches wide. And my fabric certainly wasn't long enough for 3 yards of this fabric. So I cut 2 different strips of the fabric. And when we get to that part of the sewing process, I'm just going to simply put those together right sides facing, stitch them and open it up, and I'm good to go. And that's how I'll end up with 3 yards. So again, you'll need 3 yards of strip fabric. It is not cut on the bias. If it's cut on the bias, the diagonal like that, there would be stretch, and we don't need any stretch in this at all. So 1.5 inches wide, approximately 3 yards long. That comes to about 110, I know that's crazy, 110, 111 inches. And then sit that off to the side. And let's go ahead and head over to the sewing machine. We're going to begin work on top stitching that pocket, putting the pocket on the apron, and then we'll take it from there. Over at the sewing machine, choose the thread of your choosing. I actually went with this really beautiful, very, very light blue. You're going to fold under the top edge, and we're going to do a top stitch all the way across the top edge of the apron. All right, let's push that off to the side. Go ahead and grab your apron, and remember where you marked the bottom of the pocket. So the bottom of the pocket, you want to make sure that you've taken it over to the ironing board and you've pressed under the bottom edge of the pocket. So this is the bottom edge of the pocket, and you want to go ahead and line up the bottom of the edge of the pocket right along that mark that you placed on the apron. Grab your pen, and you want to align the raw edges of the side of your apron. Now, remember, I took my pocket all the way across, but if you choose to put your pocket just in the center, that is totally fine. I just wanted mine to go all the way across for a little bit of a different look. Why not? When you make creative custom items, you can really do what you want with them. Let's go ahead and put a couple extra pins right along the bottom, making sure that I'm touching the folded edge to that tailor's chalk mark. So I have a nice straight pocket. Pin that all the way across. Once you pin that all the way across, you are going to take your apron back to the sewing machine. I'm going to show you in just one more moment. One more pin here. Let me straighten that one up. Take it back to the sewing machine, and let me turn the apron around so you can get a good view. So this is the top of the apron. This is the bottom of the apron. You are just going to sew along the sides of the apron where the pocket is, attaching it on the side, and you're going to sew all the way across the bottom of that pocket, and then all the way up along the side as well. So let's go ahead and do that. It is blending in so neatly and nicely that you almost can't tell that there are pockets on there. So here's that big pocket at the bottom. What I did was I took another marking pen that I have, and this one is disappearing ink. So what happens in about 24 to 48 hours, this totally disappears, which I like. And I just created 1, 2, 3, 4 pockets, and I just used my measuring guide to decide how big those pockets was. The measuring guide, my ruler, also allowed me to make sure that those lines are super straight. I also, by creating the 4 pockets, I also created this tiny little pocket, which will be great for an ink pen. So this could be not only a an apron that you could use in the kitchen, but it could be a crafting apron, a painting apron, and the like. So I really like that I added all those pockets. So we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew these lines down flat, creating those pockets. But y'all, I could not see myself throwing away the additional fabric. So what I did was I went over and I created, let's see, this is about 8 by 7.5 inch pocket at the top of the apron. It blends in so nicely, guys, you can't even really tell that it's there. Right now, it's just pinned on. We're going to head to the sewing machine, sew down the sides, the bottom, and the top. I had already folded down. I mean, the sides and the bottom. At the top, I'd already folded that down and did a top stitch, if you can see that. It is now pinned. I add my little um, fabric tag. And so I'm going to go ahead and sew this. And then also at the sewing machine, just a straight stitch along the pocket, creating now individual pockets. So let's go ahead and do that. Guys, I wish I could sew that fast. Time lapse is so funny. And no, I don't sew that fast. But anyway, we're back at it. I've sewn on the pocket at the top. I really love the way that that turned out. It blends in so nicely, you can't even tell that it is there. And I've made individual pockets now in the bottom big pocket. So it's not a big pocket now. It's 4 different pockets. And I have a smaller pocket there that would be perfect for either a tool or an ink pen or something like that. This would be great for a notepad, other tools, scissors, a cell phone. You know how we always seem to forget where that is. So that came out really nicely. This is so cool, guys. Take your apron now, and it really is shaping up to be an apron. Take your apron over to your ironing board, and you're going to just turn the bottom and the side edges to the wrong side, approximately 1/2 inch. So all the way around, press those edges to the wrong side. Come back to your sewing machine, and you're just going to stitch around the side and the bottom, creating the hem. Leave the top part of your apron bib the way that it is. The strips, 1.5 inch strips, is what we're going to use to encase these raw edges to create the apron straps that go around the waist. Not only those straps, but also the necktie strap. So go ahead and sew the sides and the hem, and we'll be right back together. So the sides and the hem of your apron should all be sewn. Put your apron off to the side momentarily and grab those long strips of fabric, 1.5 inches wide by 3 yards or so, which is about, it's crazy, 110 inches or so. Now, if you needed to combine more than one strip because you just need it because your fabric isn't that long, which I fully expect, is you're going to take the short ends of the strips, right sides facing, and just simply make sure you backstitch and just simply sew those together. Go ahead and take that to the ironing board and press that open, just like that. Press the seam allowances open. And then once you press the seam allowances open, and I had a demonstration of one that I'd already did that I wanted to share with you guys. So what you're going to do is going to take it over to the ironing board. I like to use a bias maker. This is perfect for making these strips. It makes it super easy. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that fabric over to your sewing machine, over to your ironing board. And if you have a bias tape maker, these are perfect. If you don't, what you're going to do is fold the fabric in half, unfold it, and then you're just going to turn those raw edges into the centers. So the raw edges are turned into the center like that. And then you're going to fold it. Oh, my fingers are fumbly today. and then you're going to fold it in again, and that's what it will look like. So this is what it will look like once you have done all of that. This is the inside, and this is what it looked like when you got started. So let's go ahead to the ironing board and do that all the way along the entire strip of fabric for your waist and your neckties. I also thought it would be helpful to do just a very quick tutorial on how to use the bias tape maker. These are very inexpensive. You can usually get a set of 3, 4, or 5 for probably less than $10. You can find them in my Amazon store as well. And what you do is on this end, not the short end, the small end, but the wide, the mouth here, you're going to simply thread your fabric all the way through, and on the other side, it comes out and it's folded the way that it needs to be folded. Let me make some adjustments here. And you simply just go ahead and press that. And so this is the easy way to do it, and you don't really end up burning your hands. So I highly recommend getting one of these. It is the best $10 you can possibly invest. So go ahead and do that, and we'll go back. And we'll come back together. Your tie should look like this. So this is how it will look closed. And when you open it, you should have the raw edges folded in toward the center. If you were to open it all the way up, it would look like that. So fold it in and then into the center and giving it a good press. Sit those off to the side momentarily. And the last thing you need to do before we add the straps for the waist and also the neck straps is right along the very top of your apron. Fold it down twice. You can also serge if you prefer. And you just want to do a really nice top stitch. And I am actually going to go ahead and do a second top stitch just for, I think it gives it a nice little extra flare. So I'm going to do a second top stitch, and then I'm going to take you back over to my cutting table so I can show you how to attach the binding on the edges of the raw edges of the bib, and also the straps as well as the neckties. Now it's time to go ahead and add the binding along the sides for the side strap, the waist strap, and also the necktie. Sorry about my dogs getting all excited outside. They wait till I'm doing a sew along to get excited, and who knows what they're barking at. But here is the top of the bib, and it's cleaned up neatly with a top stitch. Now what you need to do with the binding is you're going to cut these into two. And if you need to add additional binding, certainly you can. And if you made adjustments to the size of your apron, make adjustments to the math. Remember, I used an apron that I had around the house that I really love. Your apron may actually be shaped a little bit differently. This bib portion may be longer, it may be wider, and the neck portion may be as well. So feel comfortable adjusting. So these are general numbers that I'm using, but like I said, adjust them based on your apron. And you can actually measure right along the waist ties, along the side of the bib, and the neck ties to get a general idea of how long you should have the tie. So for my apron, I am going to cut my bias tape into two. One, which will be the longer of the two that I will have the slider on. Yes, I decided to go ahead and add the slider, and I'll show you how to do that. These are super inexpensive. If you don't have a slider, you can still do this without a slider. It doesn't have to be adjustable, but I had one handy, so I thought I would go ahead and throw it in. And so for the side that's going to have the slider, you want that strap to be 68 inches long, give or take. And on the other side, where I am going to place, I'm still playing around with it and I may end up changing it, but we'll do it together. Where I'm going to place these, I need that side to be 53 inches. So 53 inches on one side, 68 inches on the other side. So I'll say that again, 53 and 68. Adjust that based on the apron that you are working with. So that's just a general rule. Now, because I know how long I want my straps around my waist, I had already measured, and this is around the waist for me, because I wanted to tie a certain type of way, about 29 to 30 inches, and I've measured to that particular point, and I actually just placed a pin. You decide. You may want your straps longer, and if you do, go ahead and adjust it. So go ahead and clip the binding all the way down, starting at the very end. You want to fold it under so that when we sew it, it has a clean finish. And when I get to where I have that pin, this is where I want you to really, really pay attention. Where I have that pin is where I'm going to open up the binding, basically pull in the raw edge of the apron side, close it down, and put a pin or a clip there. And you're going to continue to do that. You can see that I've started to do it here all the way around. You can even see where I needed to join pieces of fabric because mine wasn't long enough, and it's really not noticeable at all. And put the clips all the way up, so still have some raw edges here. Let me grab my clips, and I'm going to pull that raw edge in between those two folds of fabric, totally encasing it all the way to the very top. And at the top, you may want to pin just to make sure that it doesn't move around at all. So I did that. And then continuing down that tie all the way down to the end. Now, this is the long side. So this one is 68 inches. You're just going to put a couple clips there to your level of comfort just so that you can keep the folds together and even when you take it over to the sewing machine. And we are going to go ahead and fold under the raw edge here and just tuck it in and put a clip. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine momentarily and go ahead and sew that. But before we do that, we might as well go ahead and do it on the other side. Now remember, I said that my waist ties, I wanted them to be 29 to 30 inches. I've already marked them for 29 to 30 inches. And I'm going to encase the raw edges of my apron right in between of my binding that we have created. And I don't want to call it binding because binding is cut on the bias, and this is not, because I did not need the fabric to stretch. It could, but it really, really wasn't necessary for this particular type of application. Again, this is a place where two pieces of fabric came together because I didn't have enough for a straight run, and it's almost completely imperceptible. Just came out really neatly. And I'm going to clip all the way to the end here as well. Actually, I'm going to get a pin for that end to make sure that it stays in. I'm going to put a couple clips along the strap. And I'm going to walk you through adding the gliders once we sew up this portion. Okay, so what you should have done at this point is measured out how long you want your tie, and then go ahead and encase the raw edges of the apron, the side part of the apron, all the way up, and then continuing beyond that because we're creating the neck strap, and I'll show you how we're going to make that adjustable. And you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're going to head over to the sewing machine, work through that, and we are so close. All right, we're back at the sewing table and starting at the very tippy part of the tie on one side. Remember, we folded that tie all the way under to make a very clean end piece, encasing all of the raw edges. I'm going to start here. Need to get my, okay, a little bit of fabric it's working through. And take my time here. Oops, let me help that along. Yeah, let me use this. Got a little sticky there. Sometimes when I'm working with fabric like this, my machine can choose to kind of gobble it up a little bit. This is when it's really great to use a piece of tissue paper. And I'm just going to clean that away. Start down maybe a little bit further and see if I get it clean. Swipe through. Let's see how it works this time. There we go. All right, just a little bit of patience goes a long way. And I am sewing very close to that folded edge. I am going to switch the camera, hold tight. I'm going to try to get you in a little bit closer so you can really see. It might wobble a little bit, but I want you to get in really close to be able to see this. I am sorry if it's wobbling just a little bit. All the way down, very close to that folded edge. And the size of the straps is totally your preference. If you want straps that are thicker, you can certainly make them a lot thicker, making sure there are no loose little threads along the way. Get rid of those. All right. I don't know if you guys can hear the football game downstairs. I'm sewing today on Sunday, and my family is downstairs, very much so enjoying the football game. Now I'm actually on the inside of the strap. I'm going to turn it so that when I get to the bib portion, I can actually get a better view of what I'm doing. So all that I did was really flipped it over because I was actually sewing on the wrong side and didn't realize that. But it doesn't really matter at all. But I want to get a good view here around the bib so it's nice and clean. So continuing all the way down. Now as we get close to where the bib starts, I'm going to back stitch just a little bit of extra reinforcement, a little bit of a back stitch there. Good. And you can always go back and do like a little X there if you really, really want to do extra reinforcements. One of the things that I love about sewing is it's always about fabric choices. So I've chosen a really nice structured, let me go over these seam really carefully. I've chosen a really nice structured cotton, but there's nothing that says you can do this with leather if you're planning to use it like in your workshop, or a canvas or a twill. So many different things that you can do. So this is not just a great custom handmade gift for folks that are planning to do some cooking during these holidays that are coming up, but it could also be for folks that like to do different types of work in their shops, whether that's painting or whatever it might be. It's really neat to have this. Welding, you name it. Okay, so getting to this point where we're getting ready to come off of the bib, back to the strap. We're now beginning to sew the neck strap. I'm going to back stitch here, again, because that's where the body of the apron is attached to the straps. And as I did on the waist straps, I am going to, making sure that it's folded in neatly, I'm going to sew all the way down to the end. Now, as you can see, I've chosen not to really use clips because it's really not doing much moving, but feel comfortable, especially if you are new at this, to use lots of clips and pins to hold it in place. And if I was using a different type of fabric that kind of moves around a lot, I absolutely would use clips and pins, but the cotton is pretty much very easy to work with. My dog just opened my sewing room door. The family's downstairs watching football. So it's probably going to sound a little bit on the noisier side here, but I'm going to get up and shut the door in just a moment. All the way down. And actually, let's not close up the end yet until we put on the slider. So all the way down and back stitch. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to shut the door, guys. So from time to time, if I'm up here sewing and the door is closed, he will come up to kind of check on me, see what I'm doing. All right, so this is what it looks like on one side, and that is looking really good. Look at that, where the necktie is. That looks really great. So before we add any of the sliders or the D-ring, we're going to just start on the other side, and I'm going to start on the short end. I'm not going to tie it off yet on the end that's near the necktie. What I mean is I'm just going to fold it in. I'm not going to clean up that edge yet. I'm going to wait until we actually put on the slider as well, and the clip and the D-ring and that sort of thing. All the way down. As we get to that area, making sure that the bib is neatly tucked in. Make sure you, whoops, thought I felt it slip a little bit. Make sure it did not. Yep, looking good. And I am going to back stitch a few times here. And then continue down the side of the bib as you did on the other side, all the way down to the tie until you get to the very end. So continue sewing. Your ties should all be sewn and the edges should be raw on the necktie. So you shouldn't have finished these off yet. If you did, it's no big deal. All right, this is what your hardware, your finishings will look like when we're all done. So I wanted to give you a general idea of how that will look. And you'll have the opportunity to adjust your bib with this slider, which is really pretty amazing. But what I did was I also added this little clip. So if you, once you've adjusted the bib to your liking, you can just use this little clip to put the bib on and off. I just wanted to add a little bit of hardware to it, so I did. You don't have to do all of that. You really don't. But I wanted to add it. I had it in my stash, so I wanted to go ahead and add it. This is what it's going to look like, but let me break it down and show you how to add it to your fabric. All right, so let's take that D-ring closure off, starting with the short end. So you should have sewn all the way to the end on your short end. This is the one that you want to take the clip, and you are simply going to take that clip, trying to do it so you can actually see it in a great way. Take the clip, glide it in. So it will look like that. Really great. And on the inside, let me get rid of this little piece of thread. On the inside, this is where we're going to close off that raw edge. All that I'm going to simply do is tuck the raw edge in and then go ahead and just place it on the bib. And I'm going to take it down just a little bit so it's not right at the very edge. And I'm going to put in, actually, I think I'll use a clip for this. The only thing that I am going to do on the sewing machine is very close to this little clip, I guess is what you could call it. You don't even have to do this piece, but I like to do that. I'm going to just sew one row of stitches across, and that pretty much locks this clip in exactly where you want it on the end. So I'm going to sew that one little strip there. And I'm using my Foff Quilt Ambition, and I'm going to move the position of the needle as far over as I possibly can. And I just moved it in the wrong direction, all the way over as far as I can, so that when I sew it, I don't get anywhere near that metal piece with my needle. So I'm going to move that all the way out of the way. Let's move it a little bit further. Okay, put that down, make sure I'm as close as I want. All the way, just playing with until I get it to where I think makes sense. Take my time sewing over and then go back once. And I'm going to go back again and stop kind of in the middle, locking it off. So I just lock that in on the very end, clean up a couple of extra threads there. And on this little piece at the very end where I clipped it to the back of the apron, I'm going to move the clip. I think it's going to be totally fine. And I'm going to go down on both sides and sew it down. And that encases the raw edge as well, all the way down. Go all the way around on this one because I want to lock that in very neatly. And then finish it off on the other side. This actually helps as I'm making my way through thick fabric. Okay, all the way. All right. And then one, so basically what I did was I sewed a box and I did a little extra reinforcement. Super, guys, look at that. I love the finishings. It adds just a little bit of weight, a perfect amount of weight. So that side is done. Look at how gorgeous that looks. Okay, let's do the slider and the D-ring. So let me show you how that all came together. I'm going to pull it apart first. Take the slider off. Okay, so on the longer of the two neckties, you're going to first take your slider in over, take it up and over that little divider and just push that down a little bit. It doesn't matter how far you push it down because it's adjustable and you can do whatever you want with it. After I do that, I am going to grab the D-ring and I'm going to place the D-ring on there as well. Let me turn that around. Now this is where, so the D-ring is on and the slider is on. This can be a little bit tricky, but it works out fine. You're now going to thread the raw edge of that tie. I like to push the other one out a little bit. So I kind of like pull this one out of the way. And sometimes when I have nails on, it can get to be a little bit tricky, but this one, by moving that first one a little bit back, it makes room for you to thread the second piece through. And we are there. I just clean up the fabric, make sure that it's lying flat. It looks good. I love the way that that looks. We have our adjustable slider on, I should say. And then the last thing that we want to do is go ahead and clean up the end of the last tie, the necktie. You fold that raw edge under, clipping or pinning it to just that portion of the tie that you threaded through last. Let me give myself a little bit more room there to get there. So let me get there a little bit more. And then I'm going to pull it up a little bit closer so you can really see that. Okay, so we came through the slider the first time. I added the D-ring on, and then with that raw edge, I threaded that end of the strap through the underside of the slider here. And then once I did that, still on the back side, you just simply on that end, just the end, not the first part, because this is really important. If you do it on the first part, don't worry, you can use a seam ripper and take it apart. But if you do it on the other side, it will not slide, and that totally defeats the purpose of the slider. So once you've done that, you go ahead and clip it to the underside piece, and we are going to go ahead and sew that down. Let me go ahead and do that. Yes, I've done it before where I did it. We all, trial and error is everything. I've done it where I actually sewed it thinking, oh, great, I'll sew it through both. Doesn't this look so neat? And then you realize, that doesn't work. Now my slider doesn't work. So it's no big deal. Every now and then you have to use your seam ripper. No big deal at all. Okay. And there you have it, guys, a custom handmade apron, no pattern needed whatsoever. And you can do this in probably maybe 30 to 60 minutes. I love that I did indeed add that additional pocket using up the extra fabric. I love that it is completely adjustable. I like the extra little hardware that I added, but that is totally up to you. I like that the pockets go across the entire width of the apron so that you have a place basically for all of your little things, from your phones to pens and things like that. If you enjoyed this project, and I really hope that you did, please give it a thumbs up, a like. Let me know in the comments if you'd like more holiday themed kind of sewing ideas. And of course, please don't forget to subscribe. I appreciate you guys so much. Happy sewing.